So the Surface Pro begins recording when you just sort of hover over things. So we're going to record this session so that it can be uploaded to the transfer website. And James is going to do a financial aid presentation. So take it away.
Excellent. So I'll go ahead and share my screen here, and we can get started. All right. So today's presentation, let me start over. My name is James. I am a financial aid counselor here at Central. And today we're going to be covering a few things financial aid related, obviously. Some review of the FAFSA or WASFA renewal process, some things you can do to avoid financial aid headaches, as well as some scholarship tips and information. If you do need to contact the financial aid office, I do recommend you make an appointment at the financial aid website. The nice thing about making appointment is you can book 9 days out and you speak directly with a financial aid counselor at the number and time that you specify. So that's really nice. We will call you. You get a 15-minute one-on-one appointment to answer all of your questions, or at least the questions that we can fit within that 15-minute appointment. You can also give us a call, or you can email us. Be sure to include your CW ID number when making the appointment or communicating with the financial aid office, either by email or include it on any documents that you submit as well, because that will really help us make sure that the documents and information questions that you're answering, we answer them correctly as it pertains to you. All right, so a little more. Today we will cover the 2021-2022 FAFSA and WASFA renewal process. We're going to go into some scholarship hunting tips and ideas to consider when you are looking for some scholarships. And then how to avoid some financial aid headaches. And I'm sure everyone, including myself, has even run into various headaches as it relates to financial aid, but perhaps with some of this information and guidance that will lessen some of those headaches altogether. All right, so the 2021-2022 FAFSA is now open. And the FAFSA does require students to be a US citizen or permanent resident. When an eligible student submits a FAFSA, they are applying for both federal and state aid. There's no separate application for state aid if you are submitting a FAFSA. Student information will always be required on the FAFSA. And with very few exceptions, parent information will also be required on the FAFSA. The 2021-2022 FAFSA uses 2019 tax information. And we are getting some phone calls and things about job losses or changes in income since FAFSA has been submitted. If you or your family have experienced a drastic change in income, which is defined by at least a 25% reduction in income since 2019, recommend you submit the FAFSA using the required 2019 tax information, and then reach out to the financial aid office to discuss your special circumstance and see if we're able to adjust or modify any of that income information in the FAFSA. If you are ineligible to complete the FAFSA, you may be eligible to complete the Washington application for state aid, also known as the WASFA. The 2021-2022 WASFA is now open as well. And WASFA is 2019 tax information. But again, if you're able to complete the FAFSA, that's the one you would want to complete because you are applying for both federal and state aid. If you cannot complete the FAFSA, then you might be eligible to complete the WASFA, and you would be applying for state aid through the WASFA. All right, so the major things you should have on hand prior to logging in and renewing the FAFSA are your FSA ID and password, your 2019 tax returns for you, the student, and parent if you filed taxes, 2019 W-2s or other documents showing earned income in 2019. And of course, don't forget Central's school code. And when you are in the FAFSA, you're able to search either by school code, which is going to be real easy to do, 003771, or you can search by state, city, and name of the university and find it that way. All right, as you've already, or I'm assuming you've already completed a 2020-2021 FAFSA, you don't need to start a new FAFSA. Rather, once you get out to FAFSA, you're going to start a renewal. And the nice thing about doing a renewal is it's going to carry forward most of that general information that you already input from the 2021 school year. This presentation section here will focus on basically the major information that you're going to need to renew your FAFSA for the 21-22 school year. As previously mentioned, the 21-22 FAFSA uses 2019 tax information, and you should have access to the 2019 documents such as the W-2s and the 1040, which is what you or your parent would have used to file their taxes. Assuming you or your parents filed taxes in 2019, it is recommended that you use the data retrieval tool inside a FAFSA. The nice thing is that the DRT, the data retrieval tool, imports the necessary 2019 tax information directly into your FAFSA. But in order to do that, you do need to verify a few data points from your tax return, the actual 1040, to successfully import that information. Okay, so it's good to have that information on hand. Again, if you, the student, filed taxes in 2019, you should use the data retrieval tool as well. And again, have your 1040 handy to confirm some of those data points that they're going to need. Another thing, some students don't always answer the asset information for themselves or the parents, and this can cause some issues when working on the FAFSA. You do want to make sure you have some information in there, especially when it comes to that very first question, which is, as of today, what is your or your parents' balance of cash, savings, and checking accounts? This is called a point-in-time information. Don't get too stressed out about it. The important thing is just to get some information in one of these three boxes as well. The other thing is, many times people, when it comes to investment accounts and things like that, they'll include a retirement account. You don't include any retirement accounts in the FAFSA because those are used for retirement, not for educational purposes. So you would not include any of those. The other thing is, if your parents or you as a student own your home, you would not include the value of that home since it's your primary residence. If you have second or third vacation homes, then yes, you would include those, but your primary residence, you do not. Both you and your parent will need to sign the FAFSA, and when I say parent will need to sign, this is also assuming that you are a dependent student. So both you and a parent would need to sign the FAFSA. You should get a confirmation screen indicating the FAFSA was successfully assigned and submitted. The other thing is that the FAFSA is going to send you an email notifying you that the FAFSA was processed. And just to give you an idea, after you hit submit, it can take 5 to 7 business days or so for the FAFSA to go through all of its various checks and things before we receive it at the school. So moving on to some scholarship information. We get a lot of questions about scholarships, and the scholarship website out at cw.edu/scholarships has a lot of information and links to other scholarship resources that you can start your scholarship hunt. One of those resources is Scholarship Central. Scholarship Central are the scholarships that we have here at Central for our students. The Scholarship Central application will open November 1st, 2020 for CWU students. The important thing to remember when searching for scholarships is to start early and apply for as many scholarships as you are able to apply for. You want to read directions carefully and proofread any submitted materials such as essays and letters of recommendation. That's always going to be important. I also recommend you keep track of the scholarships that you have applied for and follow up with them as appropriate. So if you create a spreadsheet or write down a list of, I applied for the XYZ scholarship and they said they would make a decision, by January 3rd, this is going to give you some information to be on the lookout for whether or not you were awarded this scholarship or not. And if you're not getting any information, this is also an easy thing to reference back to and say, okay, well, I applied for this scholarship. I didn't hear anything. This is when they said they were going to make notifications. Maybe I need to follow up and make sure there's everything is all good or what the issue is. The scholarship process utilizes a skill set that will come in handy after graduation, and really just in general in life, such as meeting deadlines, following instructions, identifying your strengths and expressing them to others, and preparing materials for others to review. Lastly, you're going to be, you're going to be competing against other qualified candidates for the same pool of money. So you got to keep that in mind as well. And lastly, learning to persevere through disappointment. And yes, when it comes to scholarships, you will apply for many scholarships, and you will also not get many scholarships. This is why I'm saying it's one of these that you need to apply for many different types of scholarships. I've come across a handful of students that receive so many scholarships that they have all of their schooling and extra funds needed for living expenses paid for. And I've talked to them. I said, hey, how do you get all of these scholarships? And a lot of it is starting local with your local hometown type scholarships, working your way out to regional and state scholarships, national scholarships, but also applying for a lot of scholarships, making it known to your friends and family that you're looking for scholarships. Do they have any leads available or anything like that? So it's important to keep at it and not get discouraged. When you are going into the scholarship process, you want to pay particular attention to deadlines. Obviously, if the deadline has passed, you're not going to be able to apply for that scholarship. Where do you send it? Does it go as a physical application or paper application? Or do they want an email? How are you submitting the scholarship application? What's the name of the award, contact person, decision dates? All of this information is going to be additional clues to help you through that scholarship process. And if at all possible, I do recommend you submit typed forms. And unless you're a trained calligraphy artist, typed is really going to be the best way to go. Scholarship applications will include at least one of the following items: an application form of some sort, letters of recommendation or an essay, a resume, documentation of some sort, perhaps a portfolio. And when I say portfolio, if you are applying for a photography scholarship, the scholarship representatives may want to view some of the work that you've done currently in photography. So be prepared for those types of items. And you want to read the instructions carefully. I have seen scholarship essays where, you know, they say, I'm happy to apply for the XYZ scholarship. Only the essay that they submitted was for the ABC scholarship. So that's not a good thing to, you know, submit an essay on why you like Coca-Cola if it's to a Pepsi scholarship. So just keep that in mind. You want to make sure things are correct that you're submitting. As I mentioned, the scholarship kind of hunting season is really right now through probably early spring, and this is going to be for the 2021-2022 school year. If nothing else, we're going to have a fairly long winter break, you know, after Thanksgiving through, I think it's January 3rd is when school starts back up. So use this time to hunt and apply for scholarships. You've already been, you know, fall quarter, gotten into a routine of studying, of attending classes, and kind of in this routine and schedule. Hey, there's nothing wrong with keeping that schedule going for a few weeks longer, or even cut it down a little bit to where you're hunting for scholarships during this break. Okay, even if it's a few hours a day. Create a separate email account for your scholarship applications for two reasons. Number one, this way you have kind of all of your scholarship information in one area that's going to be easy to locate and navigate. Number two is occasionally your email will get passed along to advertisers and spammers and things like that. So you potentially get inundated with some unwanted emails. Letters of recommendations. When you do go to a professor, supervisor, what have you, for a letter of recommendation, it's a good idea to provide them a little cheat sheet as to some of your accomplishments or some of the things that they should include in that letter of recommendation. And it's really great if you're able to tailor it specifically to a scholarship. If the scholarship's asking, hey, how's your organizational skills? You would want to give that or make sure your letter writer is including some of your organizational skills that you can provide examples to them, and they would include it in that letter, which also goes back to give plenty of lead time to that person to write that letter of recommendation. If you want them to include things about your organizational skills and you don't wait till the last minute, you know, don't ask your letter writer, hey, I need this tomorrow. You know, you want to give them plenty of time to do that. Utilize on-campus resources, especially when it comes to career services. They do free resume assistance, review, and even interviewing skills if you ever need to interview for a job or want to brush up on your skills there. And the Writing Center for essays, proofreading, and you know, it's one of those things you can read something yourself 1,000 times and it looks perfect. When you hand it over to someone else, they'll they'll find issues and things with it. So it's always good to have a second set of eyes to review. Now, be careful out there looking for scholarships as well. You want to watch out for some of these signs that a scholarship is not legitimate. If they're asking for personal information, your social security number, bank account numbers, driver's license numbers, things like that, this should be a very big red flag, and approach with great caution if your scholarship is asking for these types of items. Anything that charges a fee, you should not be paying a fee to submit an application for a scholarship. This is a sign that it's not good. Any scholarship that guarantees success, that's another red flag there. Poor grammar, poorly written materials should all be indicators that things just aren't right. Okay, so getting back to the FAFSA, what next? And I kind of mentioned this a little bit, but after you and your parents sign the FAFSA, it will be sent to Central. Here at Central, we're going to start processing the 2021, 2022 FAFSAs and WASFAs next month in November. It's important that you monitor your CW email and to-do list items in case you have been selected for verification, or if your FAFSA has some type of issue that needs to get resolved. If you are selected for verification, it's important that you get us the requested documents to us by April 1st, 2021, to avoid processing delays and to ensure you get the maximum amount of aid you are eligible for. And as previously mentioned, if you or your parent have experienced an involuntary change in income of at least 25%, that has lasted more than 10 weeks since 2019, after you submit your FAFSA, reach out to the financial aid office and discuss your particular situation. Because again, depending on the situation, we may be able to adjust some of the information in your FAFSA to reflect, what the current reality is as opposed to what the income was for 2019. So some tips to avoid financial headaches. The biggest thing that seems to happen is students being uninformed or really not knowing where or how the financial aid office communicates with students. So we, the financial aid office, are going to send emails to your CW email. And we will also send, depending on the type of notification, a letter to the address on file, okay, your mailing address on file. So it's important that you check your CW email on a regular basis. I would say at least weekly, and monitor your to-do list items inside of My CW, because if there is some issues that pop up with your FAFSA, this is how we're going to be communicating them to you. Some important dates and timelines, and these might be different than your previous university, but right now for Scholarship Central, it's going to be opening November 1st, and it will stay open through March 1st, okay? March 1st, we want the FAFSA and WASFA here at the school. This is going to be the first kind of priority deadline to get your information to us and start processing it. If you have been selected for verification, and if you're unaware, verification is when the feds want us, the school, to collect documents from you and your parents and compare it against the information in the FAFSA. It's not a scary process. But we do ask for documents and signatures and things like that. So it's important that you stay on top of it. if you do have questions about verification or get selected for verification, you want to reach out to a counselor. The nice thing, getting back to the verification piece, if you use the data retrieval tool inside of FAFSA, we will not be needing any tax information submitted because you've already submitted it via secure mean directly from the IRS to your FAFSA. So it's another incentive to use the data retrieval tool. Financial aid disbursements. This is when financial aid is paying on to your student account, and your student account is where your tuition, fees, any book charges, things like that are getting assigned, right, on your student account. Depending on the type of aid that you're receiving, as well as your enrollment, if you're enrolled in less than full time, your aid may get delayed until after the add drop period. And this is one of the reasons for that is the financial aid office needs to see what your final enrollment is to make sure you're getting the correct amount of aid, in particular when it comes to gift aid, such as the Pell Grant or Washington College Grant, College Bound Scholarship. If you're enrolled in less than full time, which is 12 credits is considered full time, then your grants will get reduced based on that enrollment. And we don't know what your final enrollment is going to be until the end of the add drop period. So sometimes that disbursement will not happen until after that period. Satisfactory academic progress, also known as SAP, SAP. Basically, these are the rules that you need to follow to stay eligible for financial aid. And we do have our SAP policy out on our website. Feel free to go out there and review it. But as transfer students, some of the big things that I want to hit on with you guys here is a few things. Number one is the state per quarter completion rate. And what this means is the state for the 2020-2021 school year is really looking at the number of credits that you're starting out in at the beginning of the quarter and how many of those credits did you successfully complete. So for example, if you are enrolled in 12 credits, which is again considered full-time, but only successfully complete 10 of those credits. Perhaps you withdrew from a 2-credit course, or you failed a 2-credit course, didn't successfully complete that. The state's going to look at that and place you on a warning status for your state aid. Okay, so if you are thinking of dropping classes, or unfortunately failing some classes, you might want to reach out to the financial aid office and discuss your situation to see how it's going to impact your financial aid. And I will also say that for students that are looking to drop classes, the registrar's office does a good job of referring them to the financial aid office as well, just to make sure that the classes you are dropping isn't going to impact you, or if it does, how it's going to impact you negatively. The other piece is if you've transferred in credits, obviously you would have federal aid, which is going to be Pell Grant, student loans, things like that. They max out at 270 attempted credits. And this is going to look at your entire post-secondary educational history. So if you did credits as Running Start or college in the classroom, college in the high school, something like that, those do count towards your overall lifetime attempted credits. So as you kind of get along in your academic career, if you're in one of the majors that require a lot of credits, or you dropped a lot of classes, this may impact your ability to receive federal aid in the future. State aid is a little bit different. In fact, for the 2020-2021 school year, they changed it to where it's no longer looking at your attempted credits, but rather what's your remaining eligibility to receive state aid, and state aid limits receiving state aid to 15 quarters. Okay. If you are suspended, unfortunately, for academic reasons, or get suspended from financial aid, petitions, what happens is we do send you out an email notification saying you've been suspended. This is why. This is how you can petition to have your aid reinstated. The important thing is that the petition is due on the first day of class of the next quarter. So for example, like I mentioned, classes end after Thanksgiving. Winter quarter starts, I believe it's January 3rd. So any SAP petitions would be due on January 3rd. But you don't need to wait for the due date. As soon as you receive that notification, definitely go ahead and fill out the application, the SAP petition, get it submitted, because we do review these in order received. So it would be best to get an answer sooner rather than later. All right, and also when it comes to contacting the financial aid office, the financial aid office becomes a very popular place about 2 weeks before school starts, and essentially through the first month of classes. So if you do have questions about your financial aid, it's really best to reach out prior to school starting, a few weeks before school starting, just to make sure your aid is in place, everything's all good, and also reviewing your MyCW for any to-do list items or anything like that that might be preventing your aid from paying on. But just realize that if you call or send an email during this window, it may take quite a while to receive a response. Alternatively, making an appointment would be a good way to go. Also want to talk about summer aid, and this is as it relates to the upcoming school year, so summer 2021. I recommend you reach out and speak to a financial aid counselor around mid-spring quarter to get an idea of what your eligibility is based on your anticipated aid. There's two big changes, or the big change for the summer, this academic year, again with state aid, is you can receive state aid during the summer. In the past, the only way to get state aid in the summer is if you were a college-bound scholarship student. But now, as long as you are eligible for a Washington College grant, you would be eligible to receive it in the summer as well. Pell Grant, which is a federal aid, that is available year-round. So if you are planning on attending summer, again, depending on how many classes you're anticipating using and what you've used so far during the regular academic year of your aid, summer is going to look a little bit different. And we do have students that have started the summer process only to find out that they don't qualify for any type of aid. And that's not a fun conversation for us to have, and I'm sure it's not a fun conversation for the students either. So if you are planning on taking summer, I do recommend about middle of spring quarter reaching out to the financial aid office, speaking with a counselor, explaining what you'd like to do, and we can go from there. So just to recap of some general tips here when it comes to the FAFSA, student and parent information is included. By all means, use the data retrieval tool to import the tax information directly from the FAFSA. Continue to monitor your CW email and to-do list items in your MyCW for updates. And just to kind of expand on that a little bit, all of your aid should have posted to your account, should have dispersed to your account by now. If not, there is some type of issue that needs to be addressed. And when you log into your MyCWU, and if you see a balance owed, if you see a positive number, that means you owe the school. Did your financial aid disperse? Did you remember to accept your loans? You know, that sort of thing. If you see a negative number, that means the school owes you. And depending on the situation, a refund should be generated. But if you see that negative number out there in your student account for a while and it's not going anywhere, you should reach out to the student accounts office, financial aid office, and we can kind of take a look at it and see what the issue is. Continue searching for scholarships, starting local, as I previously mentioned, Rotary Club, Kiwanis, putting the word out that you're looking for scholarships. And if anyone has any leads, that's going to be a good place to start. Read and follow instructions and apply. And I know it's not the funnest thing to do, but hey, it's only costing your time. And if you're doing this during winter break, yeah, you know, depending on your situation, you do have some time available during that time, if nothing else. Reviewing CW email on a regular basis and to-do list items, just to make sure that there's no issues. And of course, if you do have any questions or not understanding your financial aid or what it covers, what types of difference between a grant and a loan, feel free to give us a call and we can help you out. And with that being said, let's see. I think we've got one other slide here. Yeah, already kind of covered that. Make an appointment to speak with a financial aid counselor and make sure your aid is all good and there's no issues. So with that, I'll open it up to questions if there's any questions from the audience.
James, I do have a question for you about students who decide to either enroll 3/4 time or half time. Are they eligible to receive a portion of their awarded financial aid?
Yeah, so when it comes to, you know, less than full-time enrollment, when it comes to student loans require enrollment of at least 6 credits. If you are a graduate student, it's only 5 credits. 5 credits is considered half-time for graduate students. For undergraduate students, yeah, in terms of your grants and other types of aid eligibility, it does get reduced if you're enrolled in 3/4 time or half time. But you are still eligible for that aid. And you know, without going too much into the weeds, it also kind of depends on how much of a Pell Grant you receive. But in general, 6 credits, minimum 6 credits, you should be good, if nothing else, for student loans.
Thank you.
And James, do you have any information on scholarships that are specific for transfer students?
So in Scholarship Central, there might be some specific scholarships set aside for transfer students. And that could be one of the criteria to search for in Scholarship Central.
Great, thank you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know financial aid isn't the most exciting thing to think about, but the important thing is to ask questions, If you're not understanding something or need clarification on something, reaching out and making an appointment to speak with a counselor.
Any student questions? Anybody have something? I'm sure if you're thinking of something, everybody else is thinking of it too. So no bad questions.
I do have another question, James. For students who need assistance filling out their FAFSA or WASFA, what is the best avenue for them to take?
Yeah, so this is one of the areas that's a little more difficult now that we are working remotely. We did have the ability for students to set a FAFSA type appointment and would be able to really sit next to the person and go through the FAFSA. We do not currently have those types of appointments available. What I would recommend is first trying to do the best you can when it comes to the FAFSA. If you are running into some issues inside of FAFSA, next to each of the questions will be a little circle with a question mark, a clarifying. Basically, if you click on it, what does this question mean? And it will give you some additional guidance. If that still isn't, giving any clarification to you, when you call to make an appointment with a counselor, or if you give us a call, having that section handy, open and ready to go to ask for clarification would be a big help to us. So that would be the one recommendation. We are also working on a section on our website to have a FAFSA type section walkthrough. So keep an eye on that. Hopefully we'll have something there in the coming weeks.
I have an answer for that. Can you hear me?
Yes.
They actually have a FAFSA night tonight on the Wenatchee Valley College site.
There you go.
I think, yes.
There you go.
Yep.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, well, last call for questions.
Okay, this is a little bit different. I missed the transfer part. Did you guys record that where I could watch the video or no?
This whole presentation has been recorded and it should be available by the end of next week. And so was there something specific about financial aid for transfer students that you had a question about, or?
More, I've done financial aid before through Wenatchee Valley College, and my son had scholarships and Pell Grants and everything. It's more like, I don't know, like, well, it would be different to be like the housing and all that stuff, which is not part of financial aid. I don't think so. That's why.
Yeah, well, when it to kind of expand on the housing piece, a lot of the financial aid works around what's called a cost of attendance, and cost of attendance includes tuition, fees, and estimation for room and board, as well as personal miscellaneous expenses and things like that. We at a four-year university, our cost of attendance runs about $25,000 a year. A community college or other colleges may have much lower costs of attendance, and some may have much higher. Private institutions, Gonzaga, Harvard, things like that would have a much higher cost of attendance. When it comes to the housing piece, if a person is living on campus in a residence halls, their final choices of the residence hall and meal plan would get incorporated into that overall cost of attendance. If you're living off campus, well, it doesn't mean you don't still have those expenses, right? I mean, you still need to feed yourself and pay for food and rent and things like that. So while you don't have those expenses showing up on your student account, you would pay for them through a refund of your financial aid. And this is also assuming that you have, enough of a financial aid package through grants and student loans that would generate a refund. Because to give you an idea, a full-time student, full-time tuition and fees for an undergraduate student is going to run about $2,800 each quarter. And if you have, more financial aid in terms of grants and things like that than the tuition and fees piece, then your aid disperses and a refund would go out to you for living expenses for off campus.
Okay, thanks.
And Erin, if you have specific questions about just like in general how to transfer from, say, Wenatchee to Central, I just dropped a link into the chat box that is a link to admissions, and you can just go, it's a short form, you can go fill that out, and that gets you into the loop with our admission counselors so they can reach out to you about, how to apply to Central, sort of what the next steps there are, because there's a lot of moving pieces. The financial aid is a big part of it, but getting accepted into Central is also an important step. So if your question was more towards that, then follow that link I put in the chat box and get connected with admissions.
Okay, thank you.
Agreed. And yeah, if you're looking to transfer to Central for winter quarter, for example, for the financial aid piece, if you have not already done so, you would need to add Central to the FAFSA to make sure the FAFSA gets to us. And if you were selected for verification and had to go through that at the school you're attending currently, unfortunately, you would need to go through that process again here at Central.
Okay, thanks.
All right, well, I'm going to end the recording, but we can stay on the call for a little bit if anybody has other questions, or if you feel like you're satisfied, then thanks for joining us. And